Anyway, I realize I never finished my story, but whatever. That's the D-Payne way.
Look, it's the beginning of the year. We can make all the mistakes we want because the next few episodes, anyway, we're gonna figure it out when we figure it out. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Pointless Discourse. I'm really distracted, D-Payne, because when you raised your hand, Zoom was like, "Hey, he's raising his hand."
Oh, I see it.
On the screen. It popped up like as soon as we hit to clap to sync our audio, and I was just like, "Do you have a question?" I was like, "No, he doesn't."
Yeah, that's now I got to do extra work for this first episode of the year, which I'm still trying to figure out. Do I want to?
This one doesn't have to have all the new stuff yet, right?
That's what I'm wondering. I'm like, do I want to do the new stuff? Which it would be a good practice, but I would have to. I don't have a good way to mark times of when we're doing certain things. You know what? I'm just gonna mark them anyway, and so that way I do that. So guys, if it looks different, I did the extra work. If it looks the same, the extra work will happen next week.
Happy New Year.
What am I writing on?
Do you have a sticky note, or do you have like scrap paper?
I have a lot of random envelopes from people asking for money on my desk, so I just use them.
So
they're called bills.
Yeah, funnily enough, speaking of people that want money, I have like a bin that I kind of dump my mail into because I'm not good at dealing with my mail on a daily basis. It's not something that I want to do. Unless it's like, if it's something that's like, hey, urgent, or like I recognize it, I deal with it. But all of the like spam and stuff, like, oh, do you want to sign up for this? Absolutely not. In the bin it goes. So I was finally sitting down and cleaning it out. And my goodness, the number of letters I have from the car place I got my car that are like, you only have so many payments left. What if you got the newer version of your same car? I'm like, no, you should be happy I just don't have a late payment. Like, stop.
Yeah. That was one of the things, like, next year I'm being, like, pretty much very strict with finances. And I'm like, okay, if I can do this for maybe, like, a year to 2 years, I should pretty much get close to where I want my finances to be. For anyone's listening, I'm not in financial trouble. It's just pretty much
sign up for the Patreon. Sorry, what?
Yeah, give me your money. But no, I'm not in financial trouble. But it's just like this year, like I had like what people would call an emergency fund, but it was more like I never really thought of it. And then I went to the dentist, and they said I had diabetes. So it was, I don't have diabetes. But
your dentist scared you, yeah.
Yeah, but also the dentist was like, well, you have, like, I didn't have any cavities. But they were like, except for one, and they're like, it's really close to the root or whatever. And I'm just like, it's like, yeah, we don't know if we drill, if it's going to hit that and can cause a lot of pain. And like, now I'm just like, I just should have told him, instead of getting a root canal, just pull the tooth. It's like, it's all the way in the back, so I don't know how much work that would be. I don't know enough about teeth. But it's like, it's all the way back there. It's not hurting anything.
You're not actively chewing on it, yeah.
Yeah, well, I was, but that's why. But like now I spread my chewing out throughout my mouth. But it was one of the things where it's just like, do you want us to like color match your teeth? This one's gonna look really white. And I'm like, you mean the one that's all the way in the back that no one's gonna see?
Yeah, unless someone has a flashlight and has forced my mouth open, no one's gonna notice, hopefully. Yeah,
so anyway, I was just like, whatever. But yeah, funds went goodbye, like the train.
Another one going by.
Goodbye, Spoiler Town.
Spoiler Town won't even be back next year.
True. I'm sad already.
Unless somehow we both happen to pick movies that each other has happened to have seen before.
Hey, it's just possible. Like last year when we did our book review, I don't know what I call them. But we also have a match, but also it is not the all-time favorite this year. We did not agree in our all-time favorite book, but I feel like in 2024 there was a lot of overlap in what we read.
Yeah.
A lot more overlap. This one, I don't think we talked as much as what we read. It's just like, I read, there's one book, and it was both like, I'm like, oh, wait, that person? I didn't mind their writing. And then I was like, oh, but, yes. Anyway, I realized I never finished my story, but whatever. That's the Dpayne way.
Look, it's the beginning of the year. We can make all the mistakes we want because the next few episodes, anyway, we're gonna figure it out when we figure it out.
I do feel like compared to the start of other episodes or other series that we do for next week, I feel like we have a pretty decent like idea compared to rather a vague like this one. I'm like, no, I think we have a pretty good idea of what we're doing.
Yeah, it'll just be how the format works out because every time we start a new series, we end up having like
it tweaks like the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, so we'll get there. But
by the end of January, you will know how the rest of the year goes.
but like you said, we are talking books again this year, and it is always fun to see the overlap. So that's kind of why I mentioned next year's series should be interesting as well. In case you are here looking for movies and not necessarily invested in the books we're reading, or you're not the biggest reader.
Loser!
Yeah. Step 1, read more books. We have plenty of recommendations on the way. Step 2, if for some reason this has scared you away, next year we will be spinning our big wheel. So next week's episode will start our next movie series, where we both submitted 25 prompts for 50 episodes, where we have no requirements for what movie we'll be watching other than just something silly.
Just prompts.
Yeah.
And
no specific director, no specific theme. Because 2024 we did A24 movies. 2025 we did specific directors. Now we hunt and find. For example, one of our prompts is simply musical. Another prompt is movie you've been recommended by your significant other. So big old range. I think we have monster movie.
That one's gonna be work.
Yes. Monster movie (parentheses not kaiju), adapted from a video game.
And then I think we do have one that I don't think it's worded this, but it is kaiju.
Space opera. Yeah, so we have lots of options. Lots of options.
And a nice thing is about this series, if you guys are going to enjoy that series, this is one that can constantly be added to. And so and I feel like with this, I know one thing I do miss is the PD minis, which we did, I think, at like 2 or 3 in total.
Yeah, we did one for the new Alien movie and one for Prey.
Yes. I'm going to say there's something I want to try. Like this isn't for both of us, but if you want to, I think it would be a fun PD mini episode. I've been hearing really good things about the Predator stuff that has been coming out lately. Like Badlands, I heard was like one of the best Predator movies.
That's impressive because we really like Prey.
To be fair, the bar isn't the highest with Predator, but
Prey and Predator original, good movies. Yes. The rest of them,
they're
Predator 2, arguably maybe Predator 2, arguably like the most poorly aged movie we've watched on the podcast, and that's speaking against the Cell. Hey,
you keep the Cell out of your mouth.
The Twizzler suit's got to come back every so often.
Yes. My goal is to watch the Cell the week before watch what the other host watched the week before.
Good luck forcing the wheel.
Well, you know what? If we get to where there's only one left and it's that one.
Or 2 left. Yeah. You'll know what the last one is.
Oh yeah. I'm going to be like, all right.
It would be funny if we were down to like the final 5 and one of the ones was like, watch what your other host watched. And you just keep watching the Cell going, this next one, it's gotta be.
It's like, I watched the Cell 5 weeks in a row. There's another podcast. I haven't listened to them, but I heard of their concept where they watch at least the first like 2 seasons, I think, for every day of the year, or not every, is that every day for a month or every week of the year, they would watch the same movie. And it's just like they would comment, like these two guys would just come back and comment on it. I think the podcast is called the worst idea ever or something like that.
That does sound like a terrible idea.
And they would purposely choose not the greatest movies.
Yeah, there's a YouTube content creator that I like, Eddie Burback, and he decided to watch Morbius 5 times in a row in theaters, and by the end of it, he was just like, why did I do this? Like,
yeah. So watching The Cell 5 weeks back to back, it's like that's all I can think of. I'm like, the joke is gonna pay off, and then I could also just see you being like, no.
but it would make it whatever movie you watch after The Cell probably a really great movie. I had a challenge for myself one year. I didn't fully follow through on it because doing a challenge by yourself is like, yay for me, I guess. I don't know. At least that's how my brain works. But I wanted to watch all of the like great classic Halloween movies. Not like Halloween, but like I do rewatch Alien most times of the year. I rewatch The Thing. And I was like, if I want to do them all during the Halloween season, I can't watch The Thing, Halloween, Alien. Like I can't watch them back to back because I'm just going to be comparing great against great. So I would find the worst B-rated film or B-grade film in between each one and go, wow, what did I watch? And then I watch The Thing and go, wow, that's the best movie I've ever seen. And then I watch a movie about like kids locked in a high school while they're like kid they bullied like murdered all of them. But it had a bunch of like people from Glee, I think. And I was just like, wow, this acting is terrible. And then I go and watch Hellraiser, and I'm like, those are such cool effects.
I haven't seen Hellraiser. It's on my list to watch. I heard good things about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the strongest story, if I remember it correctly, but
yeah,
very cool practical effects. Same thing with watching Evil Dead, you know? It just gets better with worse movies in between.
I watched a video on TikTok of could Ash defeat Pennywise?
And what did they conclude?
Let's see. I'm trying to remember because there is somebody that keeps showing up on my For You page that is like power scaling Pennywise with like other things, and he just keeps going back to the fact is that Pennywise is just like the physical construct of the whatever the thing is in our world. Yeah, the entity. So it's just like you can, for audio listeners, in big parentheses, defeat Pennywise, which is just sending him back to the main body, but he can come back. But yeah, I don't know. All the TikTok stuff I've been seeing is just really making me want to read it, which I did not read this year.
Book transition.
That's transition. Right. That's right. We are here for books. So this is interesting. At least for me, I can't speak for Hop because I did not read her books. But I had a interesting mix of. So this let's start up from the beginning. So we come up with 5 genres. We have contemporary / literary fiction, horror, fantasy, historical fiction, and science fiction. And then we have our favorite book of the year. And then I realize I didn't fill in this, but I know the answer. We have one for novella or shorter story, if we have the time. And yeah, so we'll go back and forth. And this year was a little bit difficult for me to fill in because I had my own kind of like reading challenge I was trying to do. And then I stopped. But like I did get pretty far, which was I wanted to read a lot of Agatha Christie. And I wanted to read specifically her Hercule Poirot series. Because it was just one, I don't even know what spawned it. I think me and the frequent listener watched the first remake movie that came out. blanking on the name of it. No, that was earlier. I think I started reading them anyway. I wanted to read them mainly because I was like, I remember my mom liking the TV show that they were based off of. I hear a lot of people say good things about them. Let me just check it out. And so I read a bunch of her stuff, but we don't have crime and mystery on as one of our things.
We could add it. I can move one of my books.
It's all good. That means I got to go read my list of books I read this year.
Okay, then we'll just leave it the way it is.
Yeah, but it's like that. It was just one of the things. Like I said, it was a little bit difficult, but there was other things like I didn't even realize I read this year, like the one for fantasy. I thought I read that in 2024, not 2025, and I was like, oh, I remember this book, and so like the books that do fit, So it's funny. My historical fiction I originally had as horror, but then I realized I didn't really was like too keen on some of the other historical fiction books I read, and then like yeah. I also didn't read a lot of science fiction this year either. So I was just like, it was a lot of mystery and a decent amount of horror and some fantasy, but.
Still a good variety. So yeah, so do you want to roll dice to decide who like goes first for the categories?
I think we should.
Which dice? We've just been rolling D12s a lot.
I know. I'm just looking at the middle and all I see is the D10 and the percentile die. Should we go Call Cthulhu?
We can roll a D100.
Okay, so are we doing Call of Cthulhu, doing lowest? I'm not saying this because I lost 82 times last year.
I'm waiting for you to roll 100 right now.
I know.
Or 99, whichever rules you want to go by. Are we doing 1 to 99 or 0 to... Or no. You know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, all zeros is 100.
Okay.
That's how I always do it. Oh, but hold on, before we roll, are we doing higher or low?
We'll do lower.
Cthulhu?
Yeah.
Okay. So, guys, for this, lowest roll wins.
I'm going to send you a picture. It is not believable. You would not believe me.
And, yeah, so this is who's going to start.
Okay. So, as proof, I'm sending D-Payne.
All right, well, I rolled a 48. A very, like, a good average roll. I can't wait to see Hops 1. I was close.
Practically. I rolled an 8 somehow with the potential of up to 99, and then I rolled an 8.
You were 2 digits away from 100.
I was very close. All right. So, yeah, I'll go first. So we'll kick off with a category. I don't have to do any spoiler warnings because we're just going to kind of generally talk about books and recommendations.
Spoiler Town is on... Spoiler Town needs to do some renovations after all the tourists were coming in.
So you don't have to sweat about whether or not any of these books can be ruined for you. I guess if you happen to hear a book in our discussion that you like, do let us know via like reviews, comments, or things like that, or discussion forums. Just depends on whichever listening platform you're going with. If you have different opinions of us than the book, then that's all. You can keep those to yourself because we're not going to explain anything beyond what we say. So yes, we have contemporary / literary fiction as the first genre. Mm-hmm. And I was torn between 2 books. So if you wanted to add thriller / mystery, I could move one of my books from here to there. But I think...
Nah, you do what you got to do. You do what you wrote.
All right. I wrote 2 books. So I have The Bandit Queens or The Golden Boy's Guide to Bipolar. So I like both of them a lot. I think I'm going to say out of the 2, I'm going to pick The Bandit Queens as my favorite literary fiction. I think it's more literary fiction of the year. The Golden Boy's Guide to Bipolar is good. Surprisingly, a YA book with very like interesting themes. but I think I just said I liked it because it's a really good audiobook. Like, the actor is really good at acting it out. So, not to say that the contents isn't good, but I think that's like, that elevated it for me. Whereas the Bandit Queens is just really funny. It's like the only satire I've read in a long time that actually reads as satire to me. So basically the premise for the Bandit Queens is it's in rural India, and everybody in this area, I think a village, believes that the main character has murdered her husband, even though she never did. He literally just disappeared one day, and rumors started that she murdered him, and she's just like, I can't convince anybody of anything else. So you know what? Whatever. And then eventually other women in the village are like, you did such a good job of murdering your husband. Can you, like, help me? And she's like, what do I get out of it? And they offer her things that she doesn't have access to, like more money or trips into the city. Because one of the things that she strives for is to have refrigeration. Because she cooks for herself. She lives alone. She's like, I cook too much food. If I had a refrigerator, I could have leftovers. And so she's like, okay, I guess I'll give you guys advice on how to kill your husband. And then all these women are like, that's terrible advice. Are you sure you killed your husband? She's like, I did, because you're paying me. And then everything starts to spiral, where as she's kind of getting dragged into these scenarios, because naturally, if you're involved in a murder scheme, you end up finding out a bunch of other stuff that you didn't realize was going on. And I don't know, it's really funny. It's really interesting. There's a lot of discussions about an area of the world that I've never been to. So, like, culturally and, like, the structures between people, like relationships, I think was pretty interesting. And I don't know, I joke with my coworker about this because she's in a book club with her church, and she's like, yeah, the wife murdered her husband. So whenever she tells me she's reading a new book, I was like, anybody murder their husband? She's like, not in this one, but I think they should. So I like to say, like, I love a book where a woman murders, like, I support women's wrongs within reason. I've read some books where I read women's wrongs and went, oh, no. No.
Not that much.
Not that wrong. But no, I think Bandit Queens, it's one of those concepts I think makes you laugh when you kind of read what it is. And I think actually does a good job of kind of being funny, because the main character is a smart woman, and she's trying to, like, she has this reputation to her, and she's just like, you know what? I guess I might as well own it. So it's pretty fun. I would say there are some warnings about, like, harm to animals and everything like that. Some of it on page, but generally there is, for some of the animals, there is, like, a happier ending down the line. But yeah, I think it's fun. So, Dpayne, your fiction book of the year, or specifically
like contemporary literary fiction. It's fun. I think this is like the second or third year we've done this, and I still don't really know what contemporary literary fiction. I just know that I read one when I click on my
your summaries.
My summaries, and you're like, here's the books that you read. I'm like, didn't know that was one, but all right, I'll take it. So, funny enough, the book that I have here was originally put into horror until I saw it could fit in this category, and I was like, okay, I'd rather talk about the book that's in the horror one. But I read a different book by this author, Shirley Jackson. She wrote, I think, a lot of books in, like, kind of the 50s and 60s. What she's known for is not the book I'm talking about, which is Haunting of Hill House.
Some may also know her for The Lottery.
Yeah, I haven't read that book.
That one got turned into a movie, so I know that one's also pretty
well.
infamous.
So it did. Well, Netflix turned Haunting of Hill House into a movie or series, and I found out that this book that I just finished last week was also made into a film. I have here We Have Always Lived Here by Shirley Jackson.
Yeah,
Now,
I did read this for my horror book club
okay,
this
I was
year.
like, yeah, I was like, okay, this as you were talking about the Bandit Queens, I was like, this this sounds like there's similar threads. I would say, not the way you were explaining the Bandit Queens. But in short, we follow a two sisters and an uncle that are living in this mansion that is this estate that is just it's just the three of them, and they're like kind of all rumored and really not liked from the town. And overall, like, we hear that there was this event where pretty much someone put arsenic in the sugar bowl and killed the whole family. And we learn bits and pieces uh, of this family through the our main character, Mary Catherine Blackwood, who is called Mary Cat a lot of times, and with her sister, and I can't find their names easily enough. But essentially, they are enjoying life, and then a man comes.
Yeah, what's a man doing here?
Yeah.
TikTok audio.
But I think what I really enjoyed about this book was the way it's written. The perspective is from Mary Cat, and you follow her perspective. She's got a lot of weird practices that she just does. Just a lot of strange things where, like, nowadays I was reading, like, okay, does she have some mental development, like, stunting of growth that happened from everything that was going on? Is there other stuff going on? And there's a couple different theories where, like, I don't want to say it because it's like, as I was sitting there listening, it was just there's more to our narrator than what we learn for a good while. I would say is a
She's
good
very
way.
unreliable. Yeah.
Very unreliable and everything, and is constantly talking about, oh, we got to go to the moon. We're gonna go live on the moon and all this stuff. But yeah, as I forget his name. It's not that important. Comes in and is like just threatening the peace of that, and it's her life is changing, and then just seeing like how the family members and all that. I thought it was just a very fun story because it very easily the main character could have been the man that shows up, and
Being creeped out by her. Yeah.
yes, and it is very much a horror story told from a different perspective. And I realized I didn't write the time that I started talking.
Gasp. I also did not. I'm sorry. I could have
It's
done
fine.
you a favor.
It's all good. Well, that means I'm using the old setup there. If I couldn't do it literally on the second one when I first started talking, it's not worth it. Also, I gotta edit this really quick because I gotta go on a cruise at the end of the week. But yeah, let's see. It came out in 1962. It's one of those books, like, I know it's considered, I think, a classic. But, well, you said you read it this year, and I think it just fits with, like, I still, like, the reading and stuff isn't so foreign that you're like, oh my goodness, what the heck is going on? But it's
Right.
just like terminology, a lot of stuff hasn't aged all that much, and there's just I think this book is worth the twists. The narrative is very fun, and then I think what really does it for me is the end of the book, because there's a spot where it feels like the book could end here, but then it goes on, like, for a while more, and just where I think that just is like the cherry on top, where it's just like just it's not essentially it's not about the money as everyone thinks it is. So.
And I think when I read the book, I know you said like it feels like a horror from a different perspective because it could be from the man like you know, joining the house. I liked when my book club discussed it. We talked about how it's a horror, but like about society. Like the scary thing is society, because like you said, a lot of people have rumors and perceptions of them, and there's a lot of discussions in the book about how it doesn't seem to matter if the people were even around for the event. It just they can't get rid of whatever reputation it is, no matter what they do.
Yeah, and then it's this, and then there's things like, does the story that everyone knows, is that even true?
Yeah, because the man is... Ugh, sorry, I won't talk about the man because the connection of the man to everybody else. I'm like, jump scare.
Yes, but yeah, I think it's definitely worth a read. I listened to an audiobook of it, and I don't remember. I could look it up real quick.
It's a very small book.
Yes, it's not a big
short.
book, but I know the audiobook I listened to, the narrator was quite good. Give me 1 second as I open this up, and it's right here. Oh, I gotta click more buttons.
Not buttons. Anything but buttons.
By Bernadette Dune. I think that's what it is. Yeah, Dune. Or Dunne. Dunne. She did a very good job. She also did the audiobook that I read for Haunting of Hill House, and that also was very well done.
Nice. All right,
so,
Itisdpayne, what's our next category?
Our next category is romance. No.
Hey, I do read romance.
I read romance by accident. Oh my goodness, the trains are going nuts. We are talking about horror, which, hey, we don't have to take turns because we put the same book.
How dare we? I think, did I recommend this to you?
I think you were talking about it. I don't know. I don't know if you recommended it to me, but you spoke very highly of it. Hold on. We both read Bad Eater and Other Names for Cora Zhang, by Kylie Lee Baker. And I remember you talking about it, and I was seeing it coming. I was seeing reports about it or social media posts about it going around. This book came out this year, I believe, right?
It's, if not this year, very late 2024.
And I read a different book of Kylie Baker that it was good, but it didn't really stand out to me. And I think, as I told Hop, it didn't stand out because I was reading very similar stories at the time. And so I think I was getting a little bit of fatigue with that story. But I will say, after reading this, I am interested in jumping back into that series at some point. I just don't know when. But Bad Eater and Other Names for Cora Zhang follows Cora Zhang, which I know, she is a Chinese immigrant, right?
I think she's half Chinese.
She's half Chinese. Yeah, that's right. She was born in America.
Her sister is a Chinese immigrant.
And anyway, it's pretty much the story. Starts off. Actually, it takes place
with a bang. Sorry.
Yeah, with
It's like when we send each other memes from Hereditary.
Hereditary, yes. But yeah, it takes place within COVID restrictions. They are in New York, and it's not
City proper.
Yeah, New York City. Yes, thank you. And it's not much of a spoiler because it is within the first chapter of the book where they are pretty much going back home, talking about just day-to-day things, pretty much. And then they have to go into the subway. Because they were buying toilet paper, and Cora is sitting there, and next thing she knows, her sister is falling in front of a train to where she realizes that she was pushed by the way she fell and doesn't live much longer after that.
Yeah, and it's very clear that the attack is racially motivated. Again, with it being set during kind of the peak of the lockdown and a lot of the confusion and media reporting that it's a quote unquote, certain type of virus, to which I know there are flat out statistics about the increased racism and racial attacks on Chinese Americans. And that's what this book's about. So not a light read, but a good read. And in my opinion, my favorite things to read about horror are just like more about people or monsters. But there are still monsters in this. Not to cut you off, Dpayne. But yeah, and then there is an interesting aspect of Chinese customs about how to honor and respect the dead that is a reoccurring theme within this. And I do remember Dpayne messaging me about one of my favorite scenes where Dpayne's like, yeah, get rid of them.
Yes. Yes.
The roommates.
Yes. I was like, I know what it is. And then right as before you said, I was like, that's right, them. It was a good scene. Yeah. So this book, brings in a lot of racial tensions that were happening at that point, a lot of racism and just frustration from someone in that point of view. And then the other thing is, it's like, not that those stories shouldn't be told, but it's just, it combines this other supernatural element and mystery to this whole story. And it was like the story, I don't know, I think the story like took at least for me personally a different light of it, because there's a lot of stuff, traditions and just viewpoints and stuff, without going into it too much, because I know the frequent listener would not feel comfortable saying this, like going into detail, but it's like a lot of the things in there have now become kind of part of my own life and stuff, just learning about different things. And so it's like learning that different perspective, like in my personal life, and then reading a story of like
highlighting
also,
it.
yeah. And so it was a weird and interesting look. And then what was also fun is I finished reading it, and then I was in New York City and was just like walking around Chinatown. I'm like, what up?
Yeah,
So,
like the author did a very good job of painting like kind of the weird feelings that New York City can evoke, because subways, like, while being an important mode of transportation, also feel very tight, also feel very like they're not
hot.
lit very well, very muggy. I think I also sent you pictures when I was in New York
Yes.
City, and I just sent a picture of subway tracks, and you're like,
I was like, oh no. Yes. But yeah, it was interesting learning about or reading about that stuff, and then just reading the stories. But specifically with the story, one of the things that I both know that Hop and I really, really liked was the descriptions and the appearance of the supernatural and the spirits of this world. I feel like it's a whole mystery of them, of that side of it anyway, so I don't want to go like too deep into it, because at first it's like, oh, are they friendly, are they this, blah blah blah, and everyone has a good idea, and then at the same time they're like, no, you idiots, what are you doing? And then
because it's got a lot of, I think, like we said, like there are a lot of discussions about trying to keep your culture in a place that doesn't respect it. So yeah, we kind of talk about the different ways that they go about trying to understand themselves and where they fit in, especially because Cora Zhang, like we said, she is mixed, and she's not, I believe, if I remember correctly, she's not very close to her father, who is Chinese, that she has like
Yeah.
a parental figure in her life that's like, did no one teach you? And she's like, no. And she's like,
Yeah.
uh.
Her aunt.
Her aunt, yeah.
Yeah.
Who's very eccentric in her own right.
And then it's like the whole thing where she's got like her Chinese aunt that's like very tough on her, and is like her only contact with China. And then she has her white aunt who is very Catholic. Is like just a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And not, and it's both sides. Like it's just interesting because they both want what's best for Korra, but they also don't have the full. They only have half of the worldview for each of them, like for her. And there's
they have no way to connect what she's seeing because it's a completely different identity.
Yeah. And then, but it is fun, like the way the story progresses of just like how she connects with certain people with her family and all that stuff. So it's this book, definitely worth a read. Definitely pick it up. But there is very detailed supernatural gore and supernatural gore and just normal gore.
Yeah, and then there is, of course,
and then a lot of racism, and
xenophobia. Yeah. And if you are uncomfortable reading about the lockdown, because that does bring out a lot of anxiety in people, that is the main central kind of like theme of it. So also be careful.
And setting, yeah. So there's a lot of talk about it, but it's like we're only given snapshots, so definitely do your own research if you're like, oh, this looks interesting. Like there's reviews and people that will go into more detail about trigger warnings and all that stuff, because we're 40 minutes in and we still have a bunch. So
you ready for our next topic?
Yeah.
All right, so our next genre is fantasy. So I once again put two different books here. I'm going to go back and forth. If we had a romance category, that's where one of these books will go. But I'll just say quickly, so I put in here When the Tides Held the Moon or The Final Strife. The Final Strife I put in because I know I gave that 5 stars because it's the first trilogy of a fantasy series I've ever finished, and that's the 3rd book in that installment. So I think that just holds a, like, I'm a little biased because I finally did it, and I did like the way that the story culminated. That's a fantastic series. I forget the name of the full set.
I can look
but okay, cool, thanks. Let me think. I don't know how to quickly summarize that one because that's a trilogy, but I'll just jump into When the Tides Held the Moon since we don't have the most time left. When the Tides Held the Moon is The Shape of Water, but give it more oomph to So I know Guillermo del Toro, I think, did also publish a book for Shape of Water. But When the Tides Held the Moon it has a beautiful cover. The author is also the illustrator, and there are beautiful illustrations within it. And it follows a kind of like circus group as a man who was working in, I believe it's like a glass factory, works or gets hired to make this like really elaborate carriage. And he ends up getting roped into being kind of like a maintenance man for this circus group. And there he meets a merman, to which they, like I said, Shape of Water, they slowly fall in love. And it's got a lot more found family than I was expecting, which was nice because again, he's an outsider. I believe the main character is Puerto Rican in New York City, if I remember correctly, because they maybe like a Coney Island kind of spot, if I'm remembering exactly. And he feels on the outside because he's really talented at his job and he's worked really hard and immigrated to the United States, but he's not respected very well in his industry. So he runs off to the circus where he finds a group of people that accept him for who he is and, act as a welcoming family for him. A bit of a rough start at first because he is like taking up space for someone else that they were very close to. And he finds that he can kind of communicate with the merman that they unfortunately have like trapped for amusement sake. And yeah, it's got found family, romance. It's got a little bit of a heist situation because I'm sure you can imagine if you've watched Shape of Water, you kind of understand where the story lends itself towards.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think it's just a really well done, really slow burn kind of book. I joked with my friend about it. Like, I feel like Shape of Water, they wanted it to be slow burn, but you don't have the sense of time that's
Yeah.
happening within the movie. But you do get a sense of time because of, like, the bumps in the road the main character from When the Tides Held the Moon goes through. So I think I texted my friends. I was like, page 160, they held hands. Like,
Gross.
joking. But I did put it underneath the fantasy category because, creature. Creature feature. I almost put this in historical fiction because technically it is, a fiction set in a real historical time period where, there were traveling circuses and all this. But,
Well, the book you have in your historical fiction has been on my to read list for a while.
yeah, it makes sense with a lot of the other things we read. But yeah, I think that's where I'll leave it. Yeah, if you want something really like romantic and sweet and things like that, I would recommend this book. So, what book do you have here, D-Payne?
Well,
You said you didn't
real
remember you
quick.
read it.
Yes, but real quick, the Final Strife trilogy is the Ending Fire trilogy by Sarah
Ending
L.
Fire.
Oh, the Ending Fire. Yeah. What did I say? The Final Fire?
No, you're right. You're right.
Oh, okay.
I'm just remembering it for myself.
Yeah, by Sarah L. I don't know how to pronounce her last name.
Arifi?
Arifi.
Something.
Yes. So my book that I read is The Buried Giant by Kazuo Ishiguro, which I'm pretty sure I butchered that name as well. So this book, it follows. It is okay. First off, it is set in the time after King Arthur. After King Arthur's death, and pretty much the Saxons and Britons live in harmony, and they're learning how to live with each other. However, we follow this elderly Briton couple, Axel and Beatrice, who live in this like dump of a town, and they realize one day we are losing our memories, and it's not due to old age. We are like we will say something in the morning and no one in the town will remember it. And pretty much they get to this point where they're just like, we need to go. Like, we need to leave our town. We need to go see our son, because we have this memory of our son that decided to go to a different town. We haven't seen him in years, so let's go. And then on their way, they meet a handful of different people, where they meet a Saxon warrior who kills, like, they meet him and like he's killing and like all these not mythological creatures, but he's on this quest and no one knows why he's here. And then they meet this boy that was pretty much like is like cursed pretty much to be like a werewolf, then has been like healed, and they're like, hey, we'll take you with us because you're just gonna, everyone in this little town's gonna hate you. And then lastly, they meet an elderly Sir Gawain, the nephew of King Arthur, who is the hero of one of my favorite King Arthur tales, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. And so anyway, as we get in there, we learn that all these people are trying to do these different things, and this story is really neat because it's like this Saxon warrior has been given this mission, but he won't tell anybody what it's for. And then we meet Sir Gawain, and he's like, King Arthur gave me this task, but I can't tell you, like, I can't do it. Like, it was too much when I was young, it's too much when I'm old. And then the elderly couple's just like, we know where we need to go. Like, we're trying to go to this place. And so it's this band of people that are trying to like work, that come together to do this like kind of road trip, as memories are slowly beginning to resurface, memories of certain areas, and just it goes between a couple different perspectives. Like it goes between like the old couple, it goes from Sir Gawain, it goes to the Saxon warrior, and it just kind of all like kind of funnels and cycles into this final like kind of confrontation and stuff that I think it's done really well, where it seems like a modern take on a King Arthur poem or legend. But it's just really, really fun, where it's an almost a King Arthurian story road trip. And like people are coming in, coming out, and you're just like, oh my goodness, well, we're never gonna hear from that person. Oh, we hear from this person again. And it's just but then it also brings in, because this also could fit in historical fantasy, even though with King Arthur was a historical person. Just scholars disagree when actual King Arthur was, and the certain legends, which king it was based off of, blah blah blah. That's not what this is about. But there's, if you enjoy like the Knights of King Arthur tales, and just kind of, I guess, a more grounded fiction like of that time, with still a lot of fantastical elements, this is a good story, and a very different way of, like, rather than being like, well, we saw an ogre and we're gonna go fight him. But there's like a whole scene I remember where it's like, hey, there's Britain guards, like knights right there, and I'm a Saxon warrior. There's still some contention, but we need to cross this bridge to get over there. So how can we do this realistically so we don't have to fight and we can keep moving? And it's just like puzzles and like kind of how they outsmart. There's still fights, but it's a lot more like, here's our problem, like creative solutions that we try as GMs and DMs and TTRPGs try to have the players do, and they never seem to do it.
Here's what we'll offer you, and they go, no thank you.
Yes. But no, I do think it's fun. It came out, it was published in 2015 and won a handful of awards in 2016, but the audiobook was really good, and yeah, when I realized I read it this year, I was like, oh, I remember telling, I was like, I think people should read this.
Nice.
Yeah. So I guess just moving along, so that way we're not doing a 3-hour episode.
Yes.
Yeah. Those episodes are only for one guest. Anyway. But anyway, the next one we have, which really fantasy and historical fiction, I feel like kind of go hand in hand sometimes. But I remember seeing this book on, the topic is historical fiction. And I've seen this book like in a review or something on TikTok or Instagram, and people are like, hey, this is like a good religious horror. And I'm like, what? I disagree with, like, I don't think they meant religious horror the way I was interpreting it. But there is a lot of religion in this, because this takes place, I forget when this takes place. First, I should probably say the name of the book. Between Two Fires by Christopher Bullman.
Between Two Flyers sounds like that could be a romance.
Yeah, it could be. There is
sports.
There is romance in this book. But it is set, let me see, I just wanted to, because the time period is very important in this, and the fiction is very strong, but I'm not seeing a time period. Pretty much when the Black Death, so the 1300s, is when this is set, and pretty much, okay, I will say, the Buried Giant, I can't think of any like major content warnings in there from this. I will say Between the Two Fires, this was also put in the horror thing until I was like, oh no, I'd rather talk about this than Shogun. But yeah, essentially there's because during this time, religious authority was strong and in the wrong, in a major way. So is just a good way of putting it. But we follow pretty much. There's a lot of trigger warnings of lots of threats. I'm just gonna say it right now up front before I go any further. There's like lots of themes of rape, lots of themes of violence, lots of themes of just a lot of. The setting is a very dark setting. I know I won't be able to do it all because I also haven't read it in a while. So please do your research before reading this, because there is a lot of themes that are dark and it starts off right away. But the book is still good. A good read in my personal opinion, because we see pretty much this disgraced knight who is walking around with these bandits, where this random girl comes in, which kind of alludes to what I was saying. It's like there's people are like, oh, hey, kid, blah, 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 gross, gross, gross. And he's like, at first he's like, no, this is stupid. And then he's just like, no, don't. And then ends up, this is all like within the first like chapter or two. Kills all the bandits. It's like, oh, okay, he does have, oh no, he doesn't have much of a heart. And it's just like, it's this constant back and forth, and it's just of all this stuff where it's like the good and bad of morality, but then it's like, oh, is that it? No, like literally demons are running around. Like there's like demons, there's fallen angels, like a lot of very Christian, I can't think of a better word at the moment, but like mythology in here, of just like where the Black Death is happening. There's people who survive, there's people who haven't. Demons are on this earth, kind of confusing and just running rapid, because there's a constant thing in here of asking like Lord, are you going, like, God, are you going to come down? And like I think there's I think it's a line in here where it's just like what happens to the earth when God like takes a nap or like closes his eyes or something like that. And that's during this time, if I remember correctly, about the history, it was a very not great time. And so essentially it is the knight and the young girl, and then they meet up with a drunk father who was also disgraced for certain things, as they kind of do. Okay, I realize how I said certain things. It's not the normal thing I think people think of when they think, oh no, a disgraced priest. But yeah, they kind of do this travel down south, and it like towards Paris, where the girl feels like she is being called to go there for some reason. And yeah, it's I will say, if you are sensitive to religious topics and like do not enjoy, like if you're a Christian, don't enjoy seeing Christianity shown in such a dark light, maybe not the book for you. Or if just religious stuff like
brings up bad experiences.
Yeah, but because it shows the good and bad of religion and of religious figures, shows the good and bad of humanity, and a whole lot of bad spiritual forces in this book. And it is a very dark setting. So, but the historical, like there's a lot of historical stuff, there's a lot of stuff that matches up. They reference a lot of different historical things that are going on, with a tinge of like, yeah, it's a fiction. And so it's, once again, this book, I think it was a fun read. It's been a while, so I know I'm not giving it I don't think I'm doing it justice explaining it, but it's definitely like there were definitely parts I was just reading it where it's just like, ooh, my chest is tight because of the emotions and everything that's going on. Ooh. So, but yeah, I heard Christopher Bowman, he is just a really good writer for a lot of things, and probably I resonate with him for a little bit because every book he writes apparently is completely different. So he's just like, I think he also has like the Necromancer's Basement, which is like, I heard is another really good book. He's got everything is like, it's fantasy. I think it's a little bit fantasy and fiction, all that stuff, but it's not like everything's within like the 1300s Europe during the Black Plague and all that stuff. So
Right.
yeah, so Between Two Fires, definitely worth checking out, but I highly suggest and recommend that just look up content warnings. Don't do what I did and just jump right in, just like, cool. But to be fair, I do that with almost everything that I read. So
Yeah, and you also know yourself that there's not a lot that like
yeah,
you have to look out for. Yeah.
yeah, I'm a meathead. So so what was your book?
Yeah, so in historical fiction, so I realized I didn't give like wordings for With the Tides on the Moon. I would say like there is like themes of abuse, but think of it less so as like specific forms of abuse, but more so like imagine someone who runs a circus and wants to profit off of other people. That's where a lot of the harder themes, I think, comes in. And there's a little bit of racism as well in When the Tides Held the Moon. But I think I kind of alluded to that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, for my historical fiction book, this is a book I would also recommend to check warnings for. I'm not going to remember all the warnings for this. I went in aware that it's going to be a hard read in terms of, like, if you wanted to read the Poppy War, you should also check the warnings for that. Because
no.
my book that I picked for historical fiction is Pachinko. And it is the perspective of a Korean woman who grew up during the occupation of Japan in Korea. During, which war is it? It's a war. One of the world wars. Probably two, if I had to recollect correctly.
I think it's two, but I can double check for you.
Yeah. But yeah, so Pachinko is a very heavy read, a very thick book too. I also at the beginning of the year was like, I'm going to read the books I've owned forever, and this is one of the thickest books. And I sat there and got through it, and I did it partly audiobook and partly a physical book, and I was like, wow, I'm really sad. I wonder why. But yeah, I guess if you can imagine anything bad that can happen in war and occupation, assume that as a content warning for this. And add on age gap and things like that. It is and isn't related. But the quick synopsis I'll give of this book is we follow the main character. She's, I believe, a teenager in the beginning of the story, and her mother run an inn. And she starts to realize that with everything going on, her family is like struggling quite a bit, and she ends up connecting with a much older man who has kind of been pursuing her as she's not really dated anyone before. So she agrees to see him, and he admits to having a wife and everything, and that he's doing infidelity, but that, you know, he can't help himself around her. I believe he's Japanese, and she believes that if she's with him, then maybe they'll get married, they'll have a family, and they'll be able to, like, she'll be able to, like, help her family out by being with someone who's well off, because he's, like, a well-dressed businessman who's been in town. She finds herself getting pregnant at a very young age, and he cuts all contact with her, surprise, and she doesn't know what to do, but then she finds out that a young man is going to become, I believe, a priest, and he's planning on he's been told to start a church in Japan. I think it is.
Yes.
And
I'm reading the Wikipedia.
Yeah, okay. Wow, I have a great memory. I think I read this in January. and she follows him, and then she struggles a lot with like their identity, being able to survive all of this, because there is a lot of racism for like, you know, against Koreans by Japanese people because of everything going on with the war, and how they're very well not well off, and how they get a family. And then it follows her and her family through quite a few generations. I want to say upwards of 50 years this book takes place over.
It's close to 90.
Close to 90, sweet.
So, yeah. So when...
Because there's perspectives of her mother, her children, and everything. Mm-hmm. Yeah, throughout an entire lifetime.
You're saying like World War I or World War II, I would say yes, because that looks like
a little bit of both.
It looks like the first, because the book is split into 3 parts, and so the first part looks like that ends right near when World War I is, it's either happening or starting, because I think it was 1932. Let's see. World
War One. World War I, 1914 to 1918.
Okay, yeah. So it'd be right in the middle of book 1 from what Wikipedia is saying, and then book 2 is right in the World War II is in the middle of that. And then the fun thing is the last little chunk of book 3, the last year, 1989, is when I entered the world. So
gasp.
I'm connected to this book.
But yeah, so this is, again, like, it is a very large and expansive book, but I would say, like, I've realized I'm a really big fan of like generational stories, and this I think handles it very well. There's a lot of things that you can see that carries over between like generational trauma, the effects of war and racism on a family and not being well off, a lot of like people trying their best and given the circumstances that they have, and it's pretty sad. It's a pretty sad read. But yeah, if you have it on, you said Deepin, you have it on your list to read, I would say if you're still in your challenge of reading really long books, this is one of them.
It's never an actual challenge. It's just so happens. I don't want to read another book that's close to the size of Shogun.
What's longer, Shogun or Lonesome Dove? Because you also read Lonesome Dove, right?
I think, yes. They're about the same length.
Impressive.
I think Shogun altogether is about 42 hours, and I think Lonesome Dove's audiobook was about 45.
Okay, so basically the same kind of length.
Yeah. And then, of course, the other thing is, like, I want to read it, so that's another 45-hour book. So we'll see.
We'll see.
I'm being influenced by the internet. Yeah, you guys will find out. Normally that, like, I read a bunch of shorter books like the beginning of the year into the spring, and then it's like always right around July and August into September is when I just read this fat chunker of a book, and I'm like, oh my goodness, why? It's my story graphs just die in the end of summer.
Yeah, so you ready for our next genre?
Yes.
All right. So this is our final genre, but not necessarily our final category.
Yes.
But our final genre that we have is science fiction. So once again, me being me, I have 2 options here for myself. One that I put is Parable of the Sower, and the other one is The Dispossessed. I think I read both of these because with everything happening in the world right now, I wanted to see, like, I've heard both of these are kind of one of those books where you go, wow, is the author a fortune teller? And they're like, so Parable of the Sower is very much kind of like talks about, I'll save that one for last. I think that'll be my book that I pick. So I'll start with The Dispossessed. So The Dispossessed is by Ursula K. Le Guin. She has a prize for like speculative and science fiction, so it might be a name that you've seen on a sticker before. But The Dispossessed is one that I've heard about, and basically what you have are planets that have been separated because some people that used to live on one planet i.e. Earth, I forget what they call it in this book in particular, have left because they wanted to build a utopia. They didn't like that, you know, we were draining the planet of its resources. They didn't like the way that people treated each other. So they're like, if we get out of here, we can reset society because we can't convince everyone left behind, like, what it should be like. And we follow a guy who I believe grew up on the utopia and, like, heard horror stories growing up about what it's like back on Earth, to the point where, like, they were playing prison guard in the playground because they couldn't imagine what it's like. And then when they did leave a kid locked up, they left him overnight, and the kid was, like, not the same afterwards, because being in solitary confinement without food, water, or proper restrooms is, like, not it's not exactly cool. But so you have the main character, and he's decided that he wants to go back to Earth because he's like, we've been separated enough. Maybe I can go back and educate them and have them work with us so we can connect with each other as a society, because he feels that some things are missing from his utopia, and he feels like Earth could be brought back up in a lot of different ways. And it has a lot of discussions about, like, what it means to be able to, uprise against a government that you don't agree with and everything. And I believe she wrote this in, like, the 70s about how, like, resources are being dwindled on the planet. And then we have Parable of the Sower, which I think will be my pick. That one is by Octavia E. Butler, another famous, like, classic literature kind of name. And the thing that threw me off the most about this, reading it, I believe she sets it in 2024 or 2025. And she literally I forget when she wrote this, but she literally writes, and we elected a president who's illiterate, and it's causing a divide in the country. And I was like, oh my gosh, strap in. And it's a lot of discussion about how this young woman is traveling across the country and ends up trying to find people to connect with to build a newer society, because she hears of a place where, given the namesake of the book, where she can go and plant seeds and start a new life and everything like that. And there's a lot of course, like, terrible things she runs in along the way. There's some different types of satire talking about, you know, what's come of, like, what was once America and ends up being, like, torn apart and everything based on different ruling powers. So reading it the year that I did, I was like, wow, this is close to home. And I know there is a second book, Parable of the Talents, that I've heard will change your perspective of the first book once you read the second one. So I do own it, and I do hopefully plan on reading it soon. But I think I'm going to put this here as my favorite of the year, because it's one of those, like, it's always impressive to me when books in this genre will write, like, so many years ago, and you're like, wow, it all makes sense. And also, are you psychic? How did you do that? But both of these books, I would say, are very much more emotionally driven science fiction, and I like them both a lot. How about you, D-Payne?
All right. Well, for my science fiction book, it was fun because the one I read, like, maybe 3 or 4. I remember 2 out of the 3 science fiction books. For some reason, I think there was a 4th one in there. And 2 of them I hated, and I only read because I accidentally bought, and I was like, I bought these, so I got to read them. And it's one of those things that it's just, there was apparently a lot of, at the time, the books that I didn't choose were influential in science communities, but it's definitely something that was definitely a product of that time, not very respectful to women, as they are just, like, women pretty much are just for the enjoyment of men. So yeah. Yeah, and it's just like, I will say there was some things in there that was pretty, like, there was concepts that were interesting, but it always turned back to, like, and then I did this with my dick. And so it's like, cool, I guess mine. And so every time I keep looking at the 3rd book, I'm like, I bought you. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a book by Rad Bradbury, a little title called The Martian Chronicles, which I know when I was reading it, you have told me that you've read it a while ago.
Yeah, I own one of those like thrifted copies that has like it's like mass paperback and it's got like yellowed pages. I do like it a lot.
So in short, uh, this whole book is Earth sends people to Mars, but the current residents of Mars are like, yo, turd lords, and is not kind to them, which just results in humanity is like, well, we got to go back. And it is interesting because I found out that it's what is called, and I just learned this term as I was looking at the Wikipedia, a fix-up novel, where a fix-up novel is a novel that's created of several short stories, short fiction stories that may or may not have been initially released or previously published. And the stories, like pretty much each story was like sent out and then edited and put out, and then pretty much like they were a bunch of short stories that were pretty much cleaned up and put together into the novel. Where this book, when it came out, it was after World War II, and there was a lot of commentary on government society of America after that time, and just which it's funny enough, still a lot of stuff that I feel like we talk about today and everything. There's but it's interesting, which it's kind of my personal thing that I like is just a bunch of short stories. Now I think the thing that I wish it's just like there's definitely a progression. There's a lot of stories that I remember in this, like there's like the pretty much I think it's like the second or third one when it's like the first human Earth ship lands on Mars, and it's just like all the Martians' reaction to that, which it's like how we portray Martians landing on Earth, like, okay, get rid of them. But then how that change, like where the way the Martians are, like it's so much more why they like it's much more of a threat than them, because it's a mental thing that is like Earth's mental, like just thinking is almost a virus to Martians, and like how that changes Mars, like from a couple interactions, and then it goes there just like people trying to get in on Mars and like progress and all that stuff. And so there's like a couple stories that I don't remember the names of them, but there was like one that was I thought really interesting, which this once again this is one of the ones talking about racial oppression and just racism and just exploiting people and everything, where it's just everyone's trying to get to Mars, and there's just this very racist shopkeep that's just like, they ain't going there, and then it's just like he has a black helper that's going, and he's like, well, you still owe me money and all that stuff, and but like like their whole family and everything is, and like the whole African American community is getting on a rocket to go to Mars to get away from just everything that we're dealing with there. And like there's and so that was a pretty interesting story of just like how that kind of ends and just the reaction. But I think my favorite one is the horror house, where this guy just makes it is like an illegal house that he makes on Mars, because at some point it's like they have like thought police, and they can't have the expression of art and horror and all this stuff. And he just makes this huge horror house and of like robots and of Dracula and Frankenstein's monster and everything. And I won't ruin it, but it's fun. And yeah, that was the whole censorship talk about it. Yeah, so there's just like a bunch of fun little things. And then the only one I thought was fun was I think like an old man that's driving on Mars meets the ghost of a Martian, but the Martian is seeing him as a ghost, and it's just like, oh, hey, what's up? And so they're like talking, and it is a fun book that I think has aged well. That does cover a lot of things that I think should be still talked and looked at today, and be like, have we done better since this book was released in 1950? So, but yeah. And then I guess with that, we can move on to the favorite of the year, but I think you already gave yours, right?
No.
Oh, I misunderstood what you were saying, where you were saying that, now I understand. I got confused. I thought one of the books you said you were moving to favorite of the year, but because you wrote 2 is the one that you chose. So, anyway, favorite of the year. I think this is next year, which is the current year. This is 2026. Which doesn't
It's
matter.
favorite book of 2025.
Yes, but I was just saying, it's like, man, I think this is the longest episode we've recorded this year. And then I'm like, oh, well, technically.
It's nothing like our Halloween episodes.
Yep.
When we were doing the brackets and
Yes.
talking about 2 full-length movies.
But I was like, to be fair, any episode that we release now would be the longest episode of the year, because this is the first episode of 2026. All right.
We set a bar.
Yes, and we'll see.
We can't have any episode longer than this one.
Well, we'll see. No promises. But anyway, my favorite of the year, as I said, this year I read a lot of classics. It wasn't intentional. It just kind of how it happened. And I wanted to, and I'm really glad that I looked at my highest rated books of this year, and Agatha Christie was in one of them, which I'm glad, because this was definitely a challenge I wanted to do, was read her books, and this actually was the first book I read of hers, which was And There Were None, which I think it's one of her, still at this moment, one of her highest rated books. It does have a completely different title.
A very awful title.
Yes, which gets changed, but
I've listened to part of it. I haven't finished the full story, but I was trying to listen to it with a friend, and she was like, is this anti-Semitic? And I was like, and I think a little racist, so so just pay mind for the beginning's a little rough.
Yes. But the mystery is good. It's essentially what it is, that pretty much this, I'm blanking on it because I read this in January. I forget why all these people,
they get a letter.
I know they get a letter. I couldn't remember. It's pretty much this rich dude that just throws party, like he's known for this, like throwing extravagant parties, and he pretty much sends a letter out to these 10 different people to show up at this house, and pretty much, hey, we're just gonna have a party, and I'm on my way. And shortly it's just this record plays and starts, I believe, listing all hold on, let me make sure. Yeah. They put on a gramophone record, and then it accuses everybody there of committing a murder. And then it proceeds to let them know that the person who invited them, no one actually knows who he is, and apparently he's still on his way. And they're like, you know what? Whatever. We can just leave tomorrow. And before that thought, everyone's just like, thinks it's good, someone dies. And then it just kind of goes from there. It all follows a poem that was written around that time, which it was changed to 10 Little Indians, I believe. But I'm not going to say...
A different racist.
Yes. Yeah, I believe that's... I'm blanking on what it was changed to, because I listened to the edited title. But yes, it's I think what I really liked about this was, one, it was my introduction to Agatha Christie, not knowing the original title and all that stuff. But yeah, the mystery itself is fun. There's a lot of interesting twists. There's stuff that I was like, well, why don't they do this? And then a character says, well, let's do this. And you quickly find out why that doesn't work. And it just gets to the point where, well, we don't trust X, Y, and Z, and we don't trust these people, but we should trust this person. I don't know. And it is, for people who don't know who Agatha Christie is, she pretty much...
Yeah, like what you think is a lot of the modern mysteries. Like, I think I've heard that a lot of Knives Out has a similar energy to her books.
Mm-hmm. A lot of mysteries and murder mystery adaptations now are either her writings or heavily influenced by her writings. And I can't remember if she has like the Queen of Mystery or something like that. I'll look at her Wikipedia page. I don't know if I'm going to find it. But yeah, apparently like her first book was like, she wasn't even interested in writing. Her sister was like, dude, you constantly come up with these like puzzles and riddles and all this stuff. You should write a book on it. And she's like, fine. And everyone loved it. So, but yeah, this is definitely one of her later books after getting practice with Poirot. And she has another...
Yeah, I think is another one of her famous ones, like The Murder on the Orient Express, which that's Poirot.
That's also Poirot. She has another character, Miss Marple, which Hercule Poirot is he pretty much has I'm blanking on it. Let's see if I can find it real quick. He I have it in the thing, OCD. He has like extreme OCD before it's like it had a name, because like everything needs to be balanced. Like he can't leave a room untidy and like things not straightened. Like he needs to have his like mustache like and himself like very meticulous and defined in a way. And it's just like, but because of that, it's just, it also shows his character was very, very precise and methodical in his thinking, where he's not like going to, he doesn't go and search around and look for clues. He just reads people, listens to their stories, and finds the inconsistencies. Miss Marple, I haven't read those stories yet. But yeah, she's pretty much like a rich lady that's just like wants to do her own little mysteries. But yeah, she just does a lot of mysteries, and like from writing those stories for years, it's just like a story with neither one of those characters involved all coming together. And I do think the ending is like a very good and satisfying ending, and just it's just fun because like they give you this like poem in the beginning, and as you go through it, you're just like, you know what's going to happen next, but you don't know how it's going to happen next. So it's very fun and worth reading. How about you? As I find out why my phone wasn't going off a couple minutes ago.
Yeah, so I guess my book, completely different. I haven't really read that many classics this year. So my favorite book of the year is You Were Never Meant to Be Human by Andrew Joseph White. I've read a lot of their other YA books. Before reading this one, I think my favorite book by them was The Spirit Bears Its Teeth. And this book is their first adult novel. So a lot of their young adult novels are very brutal, and whenever I talk to someone about their books, they go, wait, those are for young adults? So when I got into the adult one, I knew to go in taking every content warning very seriously. And even the beginning of the book, there is like, the author shares like all of these happen on page and sometimes at the same time. If you have to stop reading, I will not be upset with you. Like, I understand this is not an easy book. I do have someone in a book club with me who said that they had to stop the book because some of the early content warnings, and like, yeah, I get it. And then I warned them that later on I actually had moments where the first time this has ever happened to me, I felt physically nauseous reading a book. And I was like, that's really impressive. And I also have to put this down because I'm getting lightheaded because of just like how intense the scene was. And I think the hardest part about the book is there, I guess I'll give the summary first. So the book is, I forget what they call it. There's a particular word in like book publishing where, comps, like comparative works. And they were saying that like, imagine Midsummer mixed with Alien. And I can see it. I think, but I think it goes a bit more in the Midsummer route. So basically what we have is a character who is quite young and kind of starts explaining to the reader that they've decided to join a cult because they are trans, but they felt that they would not be accepted where they were previously in life, and how they've had a lot of struggles with their mental health until they finally found the cult. And the cult is worm-based, in which everybody has a worm in them. So there's a little bit of alien part of it. And
Resident Evil 4.
And a little bit of Resident Evil, yeah. And they do what they can for the cult, and the cult decides everything for them. But then you have the main character who is clearly like still has their own thoughts and is fighting for their autonomy because they think that they have what they want in life, until they realize that they are pregnant and the cult worm says you have to keep the baby. And of course, for someone who is transitioning from female to male, the main character struggles a lot with the ideas of what this means, and they have a lot of personal fears about what it is to mean to like become pregnant and give birth, because there is a lot of like physical things that change in the human body that I think a lot of people don't really talk about unless you are someone who has had a child. So and I know the author said the book was heavily inspired by the fact that like things like Roe v. Wade and everything were pulled back. So you lose a lot of autonomy in your choices through that. So the main character has lost a lot of their autonomy, and you're following through as they're trying to navigate what is best for them. And then they keep encountering things that are like so sad and so horrible, and so like you want things to turn out better for them. And then by the end of the book, I was ugly crying because of the twist. And it was like one of those things like I could tell what was going to happen based on what was written, but I didn't want it to happen. And then it happened, and it still like got to me. So I would say this book is not going to be for everybody. There is a lot of blood, a lot of gore, a lot of physical transformation, and a lot of like really hard topics about the human body. So do be careful about that. But I think for me, it was a really powerful book in terms of like, I was able to feel the full range of emotions. I was angry. I was sick to my stomach. I was scared. I was sad. And I think the overall message by the end is one of those things where it's like vague enough that I was like, some people could see this as hopeful. Some people could see this as like, the cycle never changes. And there's a lot of things that I think it could lead to good discussions and things like that. So I don't know. I was a really big fan. Again, I read a lot of horror. I specifically like horror that does a lot of discussions about social commentary. And this is definitely one of those. This is like Bat Eater is like, like it still has a lot of things happening in it. But then somehow You Were Never Meant to Be Human is so like, so much more that I was just like, it's a book I can't recommend to people unless I know that they can handle this book. Whereas Bat Eater and other names, I'm like, I think a lot of people should read this, and I think you should be able to within your own reasons. But You Were Never Meant to Be Human is like, I would love for people to read this, but I also am like, I'm not going to force anyone to go through what I went through, because it was not an easy experience to read. And there's not a lot of books that I encounter that like affect me so much, so I have to give kudos to that. So I have had in my book club, people will say things like, is it a bad book or did I feel bad while reading it? And they'll say sometimes that affects their review. Like, we'll read some horror books and they're really depressing, and the person's like, I hated it. And then people are like, did you hate it or did you hate the like experience? And they're like, I don't like how I felt when I finished the book. And other people in the same book club are like, yeah, that's why I like the book. And the person's like, huh. So, you know, to each their own. But for me, I like a book to hurt me terribly. And I think you could probably see that from my list of books. Minus, probably minus like one or two, but most of them are just very, very sad books.
I'll have to, next time, every once in a while, this, on TikTok, this girl that just reviews books, and she's like, says, that's what I want. I want a book to rip my heart out and make me eat it. And it's just like, I'm like, okay, cool. It's funny because it's like she read Between Two Fires after I read it. I don't know the way it sounds like I tell her to read it. I don't talk to this person. I don't even know who she is. It just randomly shows up on my For You page every once in a while, and I'm like, oh, what crazy things you read? And I was like, okay. But it's like one of those things I'm like, okay, next time I'll see her, I'll just have to just send it to you. That maybe it's like, maybe you can resonate with some of the book. But then again, she also is a big fan of another series that I'm like, I tried to read. I'm like, this ain't my jam. So, and it's not like because it's gross or anything. It's I've said it before, I believe, on the podcast. I'm not the biggest fan of Red Rising. So, and she is and hey, if that's your cup of tea, that's your cup of tea. But it's like, yeah, wasn't a big fan of the story, which is why I stopped and why I didn't buy the book. I listened to it on Spotify when I had Spotify. So, but anyway, that is
we survived.
Yeah,
we talked about all these books.
Yeah, don't have time for the novella shorter story thing, but hey, we did give 6 books. Well, plus
I gave an extra handful of an extra 3 or so.
So yeah, definitely to check out. I'll write them in the description, so that way. I don't think I normally do that because I'm like, I don't want to spoil them. It's like, I don't care. Like, check them out if you guys want to. But we got to spin a wheel.
Yes, because we'll be kicking off our next series right after this one. So, on Zoom, can I share a screen?
You should be able to.
Share. Send request. Please let me in.
Allow.
Let me see, because this might get off to or visible for.
I'm gonna find out if this is going to mess up the recording.
Does it mess everything up? If it does, I can stop.
It moves everything, but I will see what the editing stuff looks like later.
Because if I could stop.
We already did it, so we'll find out, and I will let you know for next time.
All right. So I will be the wheel spinner because I think I'm in the account, and because I'm in the account, that also means it should cache what has been previously been decided. So tell me when to click.
Do it.
Click. What did we get for our first prompt?
I don't know. Oh.
A 90s animated movie.
I just watched... Wait, no, I didn't. I watched a 2000s animated movie. All right. Goofy movie it is.
Okay, so I stopped sharing. So I think I can choose hide choice. So that should be off the wheel now for the next time we spin.
I'll type it in our Discord so that way we don't forget. 90s animated movie. And I don't think we talked about it too much before. Okay, I did send that to the right person. I did send it to you. But just a quick thing, and then we're gonna get out of here because it's late. But yes, we are gonna spin the wheel, and that is gonna give us the genre, the fun prompt, and we pretty much between the 2 episodes have homework to go watch a movie. And then
We don't have to watch the same movie.
yes, we
Just
don't have to
a
watch the
movie.
same. We just have to watch a movie that fits that criteria and then come back and report on it. And I'm pretty sure both Hop and I are going to have different requirements and different ways we're going to come at this topic. So it will be fun. As I said multiple times last year, you are going to probably see a lot more of our personalities and tastes come out in the movies that we choose. So I'm looking forward to it. Is there anything else you would like to say to the people before we sign off on our first episode of 2026?
Read more books this year.
Yeah, otherwise
Thumbs
I'll
up.
punch you in the schnoz. Sorry, I cut you off. Was there anything else?
Punch.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you everyone for listening. I hope you all have a good day, a better tomorrow, read more books, and I don't know, watch a movie from the 90s that's animated. Till next time. Peace.